Hi everybody and welcome to episode 15 of the Filmmakers Guide to the Galaxy. Me and James are here with director Phil Hawkins. How are you doing, Phil?
Hello, Phil.
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you're surrounded there by props from your fan film. Is that right?
Yeah. Which I've only slightly tweaked.
Oh, right. You've only just noticed. Fine.
The camera. This is usually what my sort of den looks like. My wife calls it my kind of Star Wars museum.
Yeah.
Of things that I've collected over the years, and obviously for the film. So there's a few things here for the film. And if I turned it to my feet, there's like a life-size BB-8 down there, which I love.
Yeah.
And all sorts of crap stuff that I procrastinate with where I'm trying to work or write in my office. Distractions are good.
Well, it's I don't get very good Wi-Fi in my shed, which is my man den, so I'm subjugated to the kitchen with the Ethernet cable.
Yes.
Mine's in the loft, but can't get up there either. So
there we go. But thanks for coming on, Phil. I mean,
no, it's fun, especially because we're sort of fellow fan film creators. So
absolutely. I mean, that's what kind of got us starting this whole thing, because of our YouTube channel that's been quite successful, and we just wanted to put sort of get, I guess, feedback from the people who've been making films and make films, and give a little bit behind the scenes, because like people have seen Predator: Dark Ages, but they don't know about me and James. They don't know about maybe how the industry works. Yeah. And we just thought, well, people could watch our short and see, cool interviews with other filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also good to like chat with you as well, like on our mindset around fan films.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who want to make fan films, so I think they'll be very interested by this.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So I mean,
no pressure.
What kind of inspired you when you were starting out to actually make films as a young lad?
I think the two or the three things really. That firstly, Jurassic Park. I saw that, and it's probably so many filmmakers that say the exact same films, but I'm of that generation. I was sort of Tim's age, in Jurassic Park when I saw it. So it absolutely blew my mind, and I became kind of obsessed with how they made it, because I was absolutely petrified by it. But I knew it wasn't real. I still knew it was a film. But I was like, how have you done this? I don't understand how you've made these things real, especially because they're dinosaurs, right? You're like, wait, how have you brought these things back to life? And obviously there was no YouTube then. There weren't many behind the scenes. There was basically an annual, which I still got somewhere, a Jurassic Park annual. I'm going to pull it out. One sec. Got it here. There you go. It's all tattered. Oh, this one, my office falls apart. Look at this thing. Look at this.
Oh, amazing.
Look how tattered that is.
From 95 or something.
It's knackered. Look at it. And in here is like behind the scenes pictures. And I've still got it because it's like my first filmmaking manual. And there aren't many, but there are a few in there. And I would just obsess over them, like, oh my God, they've only just built the foot, or they've only built the head. And that was just really blew my mind in terms of filmmaking. Like, this was an actual job. And then Star Wars came a little bit later for me, on VHS, and that spoke to me sort of in hindsight. Really, I didn't really know at the time, or maybe this is just an answer that I've generated to make me sound clever. But I really related to Luke. As kind of a...
You do look a little bit like him, actually.
Thank
with
you.
That haircut.
It was sort of, the story of a farm boy who kind of, had nothing and wanted to achieve kind of brilliant things. And, I grew up in a council estate in Manchester, and no one I knew was into film or filmmakers, or just this profession other people did who lived in London, which felt like another world away, but Star Wars, so I think that's why I relate to that character. Again, it's almost a hindsight analytical, reason looking back, but I really admired seeing that kind of almost zero to hero type thing. Not that I'm calling myself a hero, but you know what I mean, in terms of ambition and drive. And then X-Files was a huge influence, week by week, seeing those episodes, and they're like mini movies, and just becoming so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So that was like my film school, really. It's funny. My filmmaking started out by making fan films, because I made a Star Wars spoof. I made X-Files films. I made a Matrix ripoff. I did all these films which are like fan films, but basically because I wanted to try and copy what I was seeing in Hollywood.
Sure. Yeah.
As well. And that's how I learned filmmaking. So by the time I was 15, I'd made countless. I started making films when I was 12. So as soon as I came into like actual being able to study it, which was at like, I think 16, we went to sixth form college, and there was like an actual media studies, course you could do. Yeah. I'd already made crap loads of shorts by then, and my kind of practical education was on its way. So those are the three things that really,
It's funny, the films you mentioned, and I think also that me and James love, like Terminator 2, films like that, you have that, obviously you kind of grow up watching those films, but they also have one thing in common, and that's practical effects. Yeah. And obviously your short has an amazing CGI, it has amazing CGI in it, but I think, Stan Winston Studios was, for me, one of those, he did Jurassic Park, they did Aliens, they did all these amazing films, and that's what got me into doing model making, because I was like, I want to create like a dinosaur. I want to create a dinosaur, or I want to create the vampire and Blade too, and all those things. It's funny, like, as you're growing up, what those things influence you. Like,
and it's amazing, and you don't quite know why. Something just grabs you, like, especially where I grew up, and in terms, I'm making it sound like I grew up in this horrible, ghetto. It wasn't like that at all, but in terms of access to cameras, like, we can afford a camera. I had to clean my mum's friend's house so I could use her VHS camera so I could make films, and I used to edit them on 2 VHS tapes together, scarted down, and like, God, the master is probably like 8th generation. Just like, I can't even think of what the quality would be like now. But that's how I learned, and it's funny how that becomes ingrained, because I started editing on like linear edit suites where you made an edit, and if you change the edit, you'd break the time code. You had to start again from the very beginning. So now when I cut or I work on things, I've still got that mindset of almost the film editing way of putting stuff together. So so it's interesting what becomes really ingrained with you early on.
It's quite funny. You mentioned, obviously, you said Spielberg and Jurassic Park. Now, I'm obviously a little bit older than you.
A little bit.
So for me, it was Spielberg and Temple of Doom. But it shows you how Spielberg, over the years, just makes those films that just seems to just like inspire young kids to be filmmakers. It's crazy, right? It's like over, like, Temple of Doom was probably 84 maybe, or 85, and then Jurassic Park, what was it,
93
or something? Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah, I think it's because they, Spielberg is like young at heart. They've all got a purity and innocence to them that some people turn the nose up at, that I think is missing in the world. There's a sense of wonder. There's a perspective of the child in everything he does. Even the darker stuff. There's kind of innocence and almost fragility to it in a way that is very endearing. And his mindset of the world. People might call it melodrama. People might call it being soft. I don't know what but they draw me in. I think they're wonderful. Like, say what you will, but like, you name, the world's most like successful or popular films, and he's going to be up there in kind of most
every
of them.
time.
Yeah. So, so hats off to the man.
But you were saying that you went into doing certain things in sixth form, and then and various things like that, and making things when you were younger. But how did you move into, say, I know you do doing commercials and short films, and then and feature films and the whatnot, and everything else. How did you move into the more professional end I'm sure a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah, so after kind of studying media, which is great for the kind of theoretical side of it, but not so much for the sort of practical side of it, especially because times were changing and lecturers were trying to keep up, I think like my first year of college was like Premiere 1, or final, so it was trying to keep up with that. So I already knew a lot. I'd already been working a lot with that stuff. And I think by the time I came to thinking about university, what I didn't want to do is go to a university and have the sort of same feeling of, I don't know, like disappointment sounds harsh, but I really wanted to, go to a place where I didn't want I knew that I needed to get into the industry to see how it really worked. By that point, I made a load of short films. I knew I was going to direct. I knew I wanted to direct. I didn't know where it came from. So I decided to take the year out and go, right, I'm going to run. I'm going to get as much experience as I can. I'm going to work for free. I'm going to apply to every single thing I possibly can do in any department. Because, I was like, well, if I'm going to try and lead these, a crew or help work with a crew to kind of achieve a vision, how can I do that if I don't understand what everybody does and have a respect for what everyone does? So I have pretty much done everything in my time, not very well, but at least I have an understanding of what people go through. So now when I'm on set, I know the limitations of a lens on a certain stop, and I know how difficult a certain move is for a focus puller. So I might be more patient, or I might not do that technique if it's all about performance. It all just becomes ingrained. I've skipped ahead. Basically, I took a year out, and I'm still having my year out, basically, because I just started being a runner, kept making shorts, and then eventually a commercials company saw a couple of my shorts and said, come on, why don't you work for us full time for 7 pence per year and assist our directors and edit commercials. And that was a real eye opener into an industry that I had no clue about. I just like, who wants to make ads when they're growing up? Like, but it's been an absolute blessing because it's allowed me to have a career as a director and play with all the toys and, and grow in budgets in that way, and then apply those techniques to short films or the features. But the thing is commercials wise, they don't really scratch that narrative itch. I want to make the Jurassic Parks and the, and of the world, the big kind of tentpole studio action, adventure stuff. So you don't get that much opportunity in commercials. So I kept making shorts and then, kept my eyes open on features. And then my first feature was an adaptation of a Euripides play, which, never thought I'd end up doing that, but I just grabbed it by the balls and did it, and it won a few awards and got distribution and stuff. But it's a very niche film, and because I think there's that pressure from people where it's like the first film needs to win Sundance or you're over, and Paul Greengrass talks about this a lot. It's like it doesn't feel like there's any permission to fail these days. Like people think like, oh, everything's instant and everyone needs to be an overnight success. And like, if you don't make it straight away, then you don't make it at all. And it's crap. It's a load of crap, basically. So I made that. And then my second feature film was an adaptation of a Philip Pullman film, which is kind of a modern day Romeo and Juliet. And I'd only got that because I'd done this feature and won some, the previous feature had won some awards. It had a young cast for the motion performances. So the producers saw that and were like, okay, we'll take a chance on this. And when I picture something, when I want something, and obviously Origins we'll get into, like, I'm just like it's like a rag to a bull, right? I will do, if I know I'm working against someone or competing against someone, I'll make sure I'll go to the ends of the earth to make sure I try and win that thing. So I can't think back and go, I could have done that. So, the pitch for the second feature, they were like, oh, can you give us, because it's based on a novel, they didn't have a script. So, well, give us an interpretation of how you would modernize this novel and the kind of film you'd make. And, they were like, oh, 5 pages or something. I wrote like a 55-page like scriptment, or whatever the term is, of references and challenges and the things we need to convert and theme. I just went to town. I spent ages on it, and it worked, you know. So that's how the features began. But all the time, still making commercials, you know, because that's how you make your living, right? You don't really make money from
I know
shooting indie features.
I know a lot of DPs such as myself. You know, you get your teeth into shorts or any narrative project, you know, just to kind of get that experience going in terms of drama, because it is very different shooting drama to commercials, especially as you know from, like, say, Origins. You get put up against so many hardships and obstacles in your way, whereas in commercials, and I know some DPs have struggled going from, say, top-end commercials to drama, because they're like, where's my technocrane? Where's my 20-man army? You know, where's my big paycheck, first of all? So, you know, there's all these things that change, and you jump into the drama world or narrative world, and you just get thrown like all these curveballs all the time. And you have to think on your feet, I think, a lot more, because whereas on a commercial you can prep, and obviously you can prep on a feature, but you know, you might turn up and they go, oh, we've lost the location today, or something like that. And I think, especially for narrative, where the story is the most important thing, it's very, very different. And I think people sometimes struggle to realise that, I can just do commercials and then do drama, but I think you should definitely shoot a few shorts. To then understand how it works and know that you might only have one light.
Because so how did you find in those first few feature films? Because I guess they were indie, fairly low budget. Or,
very low budget. Yeah.
How did you find, like, working with those kind of budgets then?
You just get on with it, don't you? You just like, what we got, what can we afford? The first one was like all one set, all inside. You know, it was trying to be as close to theatre as possible. Actually, it was sort of NT live-ish, but not shot for live. You know, kind of that, trying to be filmic but keep the convention of theatre, because at the end of the day, it was an educational tool for people to understand, you know, a classic Greek play and the staging of it. The second feature, you know, I just pushed because I want it to be as glossy as it could be. I want it to be as cinematic it could be. You know, you just need to keep pushing. You know, you just keep pushing. But as I was saying, because you've done commercials, or almost the more you shoot, the better prepared you are for the next thing and the next thing, or for the low budget stuff, as you say.
You learn from the problems.
Yeah.
Usually it's time and money, but
so you know, I am obsessed with using arms. I love arms. Like, if it's a technocrane, wonderful. Even if it's just a jib arm, I'll always go for a jib arm over a dolly, because I know I can shoot more quicker off a jib than I can off a dolly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in turn, even if it's you just need a little creep move or something, you know, especially in drama with acting and performance, and your actors bring so much to it, and you might have planned this amazing dolly move and that you're already laying, you know, pipe down for, and then you're like, actually, no, it's better here, you know, and you don't sacrifice moves for time. And I only learned that from playing with arms on commercials. So when I came to doing the fourth feature, which was Last Showing, which was kind of the biggest budget one so far, pretty much all that was on an arm. Like, every single shot was on an arm.
Was it a remote head or just like an operated?
Yeah, with a remote head. You know, on the wheels, and you know, the whole thing, because that's how the studios do it. They may be doing with technocranes, but that's what gives you a certain look.
It's true.
And you know, time again, it was crazy because it was in a cinema and we were ripping out seats, you know, to, you know, put the base of the crane down in the right place of the kind of cinema filming. And you know, as you're doing it, like, God, this is a lot of setup time. You know, well, once you're in there, you go, bang, we're there. Okay, flip it round. Okay, we're there. And we can get that big, huge wide now. And then suddenly the first whoever is going, I'm not with the camera once. You know. And
that's what Roger Deakins does. He's known for using, you know, a little jib on a dolly, or whatever, and then having a remote head on the end. And he doesn't use a tripod, you know, he just uses that, moves it up and down far quicker than moving a tripod around. And I did that on my last feature. You know, we didn't have we did like a day or two of Technocrane and mainly Steadicam, or you know, slider stuff in smaller locations. But if we had this floor space, we had a dolly with a, you know, a 9-foot jib or something, 10-foot jib, and with it wasn't a remote head, it was just me up at the end of the jib. Because there was no point, you know, spending the money just for the amount of days. But you know, we had it there, and just doing that up and down, or swinging it from like up to down and left and right, and you know, you can get so many more things rather than just a dolly, which is back and forth. Left
People
and right.
are rigging like Ronins and using them as remote heads on
the
end of
arms for sure,
and poles and stuff now. So that's all great. I mean, I'm giving all my secrets right now. But the art is in how you make a jib move feel like a dolly move. That's an art. Hiding the arc.
Okay, I know what you mean.
But so yeah, I mean, that's how I approach everything, because also when you shoot British indie film, it's like, when you see another like rainy, handheld, grainy, desaturated strip club film,
it's the desaturation,
I'm going to shoot myself.
You
know, I'm just like, stop it. Like, we can shoot and make glossy film here. Okay.
Exactly.
And it's like, all it takes is a little bit of thought, and well, that's it. A little bit of thought. Even if you only got 7 days to shoot something and you've got a 5D, you know, you can make it more cinematic. You know. Sorry, I'm ranting about budget film, but
the next film's obviously a strip club movie.
That's what I'm doing now.
So
watch this space.
You moved, obviously, doing features and commercials into, you went to make a long-term passion a reality, and making the Star Wars Origins. How did you get that off the ground, and on location? How did you get onto location, and, you know, from start to give us a shortened version, obviously, because it's.
And what made you want to do that project? Like, what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, it you know, it's taken. Well, we're into year 4 now, but it was basically 3 years before we got on set, basically, to make that film, and that came from. And I've got questions for you guys about why you made your Predator Dark Ages out now, which like millions of people have already seen. So, but it was born out of frustration, really, because, you know, the ambition to make the big studio movies never goes away. It has never gone away. And I've been lucky enough to make 5 feature films that have got distribution. They've been released, you know, and out there and sold and all that jazz. But I could see myself slipping into just making, you know, few £100,000 features, or sub £1 million or £500,000 features, or, you know, that kind of thing. And I was like, my ambition is not really for my DVD to end up on Tesco shelf so my mum can buy it. Like, that's great, but it's like that's not the goal, you know.
Some people it is, but not the 3 people sitting here.
And that's fine. And you know, I maybe have to be careful and not come across as I don't know, you know, kind of
ambitious.
I mean, that's the thing. The ambition doesn't go away. The reason why I'm here to make films is to make big studio movies. The movies I love watching are those movies. I'm not. You know, that's what I love. And so I got to a point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I can't, like, who's going to watch these films? What's the point of making another low budget movie? You know, because you know, I've kind of ticked those boxes, right? Career wise, of like, I've made a film like this, I've made a film like that, I've made of various different genres, and you know, and at the same, during all this, there was a few quite massive projects that I was attached to that I either got backstabbed on, or the money fell out, or, you know, and basically there's like 4 like career changing projects, and we're talking big things that all fell out like one after the other over a period of like a couple of years, and and it hurts, man. It really hurts. And and it's for me to do a film, I have to fall in love with it. Like I'm a big romantic. I literally have to fall in love with it. So you're breaking your heart so many times as these films disappear. And then so I stopped. I quit basically. I was like, I can't do this anymore. If I'm never going to make that, then maybe my lot is making commercials, and that's what I do, and it's a nice living, and I have a house, and look after the kids, blah blah. The end. Retire. But I became a horrible person because I wasn't scratching that story brain, that I wasn't scratching that itch to tell stories. And it was my wife actually that said, just friggin' write some, just go do something, right? Just get out my face. So I started writing Origins. I had the idea of, and I've always been fascinated by the whole A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, thinking like, sort of saying based on a true story, and like, where are we in this true story? And like, okay, and then that's what's kind of sparked. So I wrote it for me without restriction. I was like, oh yeah, and then #spoilers. Then a Star Destroyer rises out of the all these like big things. Because I was like, there's no way of making this. It was just a way of getting it out of my system. But then I fell in love with it, and then I got talking to people about it, and I kind of started, even before I finished writing it, I started pitching the idea around to a few mates of mine. They were like, that is an awesome idea, and I won't spoil the end twist, but when I told people that, people were like, you've got to make this film. And then I spoke to my manager about it in the States, and I sent him the script actually, and he said, I don't know how you make this film, but if you make half this film, we've got something. We've really got something, because we were strategizing like, what is the thing, what, like, as much as I said before about, you make your first thing and then you explode and you don't, it's like you need a piece of work, whether that's on year 1 or year 10. I mean, I'm 14 years into directing professionally, right? So I was, I'd had a decade of experience, and then I was like, I need to make a short, but something huge and ambitious and crazy and almost impossible to make, because what's the point? Who's going to watch it if you don't do that? Because I wouldn't be sat talking to you lovely gents if I'd not made that film, right? Certain doors wouldn't open if I hadn't made that film. So that was like, so finishing the script was like day 1, and then 3 years later, I was finally got to set, and it went up and went on massive. I was almost making it, then I wasn't making it. I had the money, then I had twins, and then I lost all the money, and then and then it was way more expensive than I thought it was going to be, and like it was a whole journey. To kind of get it to where it was.
I think what you did was just like the story you have, you reimagined like your own twist on it, on like the Star Wars and, dare I say, the Indiana Jones franchise or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like you took the ideas and twisted them, and that's kind of what James was trying to do with Predator. Kind of like everyone's seen. He told me the pitch in like a pub, and I was just like, I'm sold. I'll do it. I'll do it. Take my money. I was like, I'll invest in it because I was like, you've got to twist something that people haven't seen.
Yeah, it's smart. I mean, I think that's and that's why I like Dark Ages, because it's like a mashup that would never be made. It probably could be made.
Everyone thinks it can be made and that it is real.
Yeah, but like Origins, there would never be an official Disney Lucasfilm version of it, because you're basically rebooting Indiana Jones and Star Wars in the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
and you're saying it's not like as make believe. It's suddenly grounded, whereas people want it to be that universe, don't they?
Yeah. Or if you take the YouTube comment section, for example, people want me to make a whole bloody Disney Plus series of it.
Well,
but
that's great. Film Disney.
But that's why Dark Ages is smart, and that's why I think Origins is connected so well. is because it's different, and I feel that fan films have to be.
Yeah.
Because I feel if you're just trying to I love fan films. Right? I watch as many as I can. I love the ambition. I love the range of kind of scale of resources people have. Like I've been amazed by, kind of first time filmmakers and what they've been able to pull off with like CGI and models and stuff. It's like I watch and go, holy crap, they're coming for my job. But I think the core idea has to be different. It has to be unique. I think if you're just trying to fill in a scene or recasting characters that we already know, or setting places that we already know, it already feels like a fan film, right? And it's that suspension of disbelief. It's like you're trying to make a film that is as good as it should deserve, it should be a feature film. It should take you along with the story, and anything that chips away at that, like, oh well, they couldn't really afford a proper Darth Vader thing, or they couldn't really, you're hurting yourself as you go along.
Because people only see the end product, don't they? It's like whether it's made. That's the problem. Like when you're making really low budget indie films, like 200,000, people will still think or expect it to be as good as something that's 100 million, and you can't. There's no like in brackets clause underneath saying this was made for this amount of money. You still have to make it look so much better, and that's I think that's the pressure that DPs get, and obviously directors, and especially fan films. People usually just do it for a lark and a laugh, or whatever. Yeah. But I think like us, we want to make something that's professional, and people look at it going, oh, they know what they're doing, and this is maybe they're good,
And Dark Ages definitely had that. I mean, it looked like a Ridley Scott epic with Predator in it. I was like, I'm sold. Yeah. I watched it again because I watched it ages ago, and I just watched it again earlier, just to kind of refresh my memory of it. And I was like, this holds up, man. This is good. I mean, why? Hey, I'm turning this around.
You can turn it around. I mean,
why did you make Predator Dark Ages? Why?
Well, yeah. Okay, so for me particularly, like Predator is like one of my all-time favorite films, and in my head, I'd love to make a big Hollywood Predator film one day in the future. And so it was just a joke with my friend in a pub, and he was like saying, you should make a Predator film one day. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you should do it in Roman times. And I was like, no, you know what? I love medieval. I'll do a medieval Predator film one day. Yeah. And so that was the seed in my head. And that was it. The next thing you know, I've got some shots in my head, but it is what it is. Then literally I saw a guy with an amazing cosplay Predator costume. So suddenly, because again, I would not make a fan film if it wouldn't look. It's got to look good, like you said. Otherwise, what's the point? But I saw this costume, and I was like, "That's amazing. That's like near enough. It looks just like the one from the first film." Yeah. Again, I spoke to the guy. He was up for it, but that was it. But then I met Simon, and I've been telling people.
First time I think we met as well.
I was like, I want to make a Predator film, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, great." So speaking to Simon in the pub, and he was like, "Let's make it."
I'm ambitious.
How do we make it? He's like, we'll make it somehow.
He said to me, "Oh, well, we need horses. We need like all these things." And because I knew some special effects people and stunt people, and I was like, well, let me just think about what resources I have and who I know. And I was like, no, we can make this. Like with the people
the mist
I know
and the fog and
what I have,
and it's great.
I think we can make it work. And I was like, he's like, oh, but we need like 6 horses. I'm like, I know someone. It's sorted. Stunt horses, fine, done.
And the goal was to try and make a decent fan film that I would like to watch, but always there's that hope, like a bit like what you were saying with Origins, although this is a smaller scale. But it was always like, Predator was kind of, the IP was dead at that point. They weren't making Predator, and I was like, my God, if this could get in front of somebody in Fox, they might be like, oh, okay, let's chat to these guys. Unfortunately, whilst we was in the process of pre-production about to start, they announced they were making a new Predator film. It was like,
But people still rank ours up there with the top one, first or second one, so that's good to know.
When did you make it? When was it?
5 years ago now.
Was it 5 years?
Yeah, so like, I mean, it was before I did any features, so
right,
and it was kind of like only like my fourth short, if that. Like I was only really, I started out like 7 years ago, so you know, it wasn't. It was kind of a big leap for both of us, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it, right? Because why else?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, on the flip side, for Origins, and it sounds like a similar thing, it's like you have an idea that doesn't let you, that just you can't let go, you know. The shout out to Danny Baker watching. You just got a WhatsApp. I realize my WhatsApps are on. That's why I'm getting distracted. But also you're also like, well, I'm putting myself out there. You put yourself out there as professionals. It's like, if I don't pull this off, you know, then everyone, you know, because
you don't aim for the best, then it's just there's no point doing it. Yeah,
I knew there's already sniggering of people like, why is this guy making a Star Wars fan film? Like, you know, he's like a commercials director. What is he?
Yeah, because people just think it's amateur hour and geeky.
You know, and there was a bit of that. Some to my face. Like, why are you doing it? And you start to explain it, and they go, oh right. And it's only when like the first trailer came out that people were like, sorry, what? You're in Morocco? Like, what? Like, and the fun thing was in the first trailer, there's none of the big visual effects shots. Obviously, there's nothing about the ending. And so I'm just sat there going, just you wait. Like, this is like, everyone's going, oh my God, it looks epic. I'm like, this is the stuff that you can that we can show you that doesn't spoil it. Wait till you see the end of the film. At that point, obviously, it still wasn't finished. But like, you know, that was the scale of it. And you know, and because you have to do that, and because now people are like, oh, you're going to make another short, or like, would you make a sequel, or like, you know, or it's like, or you know, it's like, that's now my show reel, right? Like, erase everything else. You know, like, if you want to see a film that's like me, ambitious, and you know, like, watch that film.
I think we all get to that point on making a film that is more you as a, like my last film, Legacy of Lies came out yesterday in the States. Not in a cinema, annoyingly, because of COVID, but you know, that is more me.
Though, man. It looks slick, man.
That's slick. More me. That's that Mission Impossible, Bourne, John Wick. That the films I want to, you know, the blockbuster films that I want to make. You know, Terminator 2, those kind of franchises, and that I want to make, and that's more me than anything else I've done. So like my new reel is longer now because I've wanted to put so much from that film in it. So I know exactly what you mean. It's just like,
but it's also because, you know, people have gone like, how did you make it feel, kind of Spielberg? How did you make it feel like it feels really Raiders? I'm like, I don't know. That's just because I love Raiders, right? Like that's the easiest. And also, like, when you break it down, it's like, I'm in the desert. I've got World War II vehicles. It's hot. It's sweaty.
You use anamorphics.
Like,
done.
You know, anamorphics. Then you're like, it's Raiders. You know. So you know, so that's really works. You know, in that regard. But you know, as you're making it, you think you're crazy. I don't know how long Dark Ages took to make, but there was times where I was like,
8 days. 8 days we shot.
Yeah.
It was 8 days. Obviously, it was like 4 days, and then 4 days, and the last 4 days were like 2 nights or something like that, or like one, something like that. But and then we made it on like 10 grand, 12 grand, something like that.
Yeah.
But it almost didn't happen. Again, because of finances and stuff. But let's just talk about how you actually got into making it, and like the trials and tribulations. I mean, Star Wars, the latest one, that I saw the behind the scenes, and that seemed like a massive thing to happen. You know, they made a whole village and town and made roads just to get the billions of people that they were filming with. But you just rock up and go, yep, this will do. We don't need water here. This is fine. I mean, how did you? I mean, I know like with Mad Max, they got like sand in the camera and the wind and all these other problems.
Yeah.
What was like? how was it like for you filming it?
You filmed in the Sahara Desert, didn't you? So.
Yeah. So filmed it in the actual Sahara Desert.
And that
Morocco, for me,
right?
was like, Morocco. And it was for a minute there, I did think, can I shoot this like in a quarry or in Wales or something? And you think, well, I can make that work, and some, matte painting and stuff like that. And then you think, like, you're spending all this money, and and funny enough, so one of the big failed projects that didn't happen, I was going to shoot in Morocco. So I had a whole kind of month scouting in Morocco. So I knew it really well, and I'd met some film people, and I knew the crews, and they've shot obviously a bunch of Ridley Scott movies out there. They shot Mission Impossible out there. The crews are awesome. And also just very welcoming and very accepting of sort of anything you kind of want to do, really. It's kind of fair game. Like some of the places we filmed in, like if they were in this country, not that they would, like there would be ropes around them and you wouldn't be able to go near them. And I drove tanks through them. It's kind of like, you were damaging ground, just moving tanks around. And it's just like, yeah, fine, cool. That's kind of what it is. So, it was, so obviously we had a Moroccan team on the ground and a Moroccan crew. The only people that came over were the actors. And I should say, when this all started out, so Gary Cowan there's a commercial company called Velvet, based in Manchester, who I've worked with for many, many years. And he's also one of the first people that kind of saw the script and were like, whatever you need, I'm in. And obviously that grows and grows and grows as you start talking. But and then we started doing some commercials in Morocco. I shot some kind of Game of Thronesy, like rip-off kind of commercial out there. And obviously he fell in love with the place and the team and things. And it was like, we need to do this here. This is where we need to do it. This is the film. So his support and his production team, because in my, for 5 minutes there, I was like, well, I'll just produce it myself. And I don't have any, I'd rather put every penny on the screen, and, I can't really ask, and you realize very quickly, there's no way that can happen. So I had an amazing, producing team, and they all came out. So it was me, DP, actors, and his camera assistant, and then the kind of producing team. And then one of the actors was from America. And I think that was everyone that came. Oh, and my lovely drone guys, Neil and Odin, who I've done a few things with me before in the past. So so it's kind of a core team, and then filled out with Moroccan army. Literally, actually, the Moroccan armies with us. But you're shooting in heat in the desert, and you're having to. It sounds very dramatic, but you're having to keep people alive, because. At one point we're doing some of the car chases, and it hit 50 degrees, and we were out exposed, when we were filming, because poor Marie, who's Ellie in the film, driving an open top Jeep with no hat, and you're doing these big long tracking, shots, and basically everyone apart from the DP and Gary, the exec producer, dropped like flies, lost people to sickness, to illness, to, my drone guys, I didn't know this at the time, but to get back on set one day, found a local, because we were in the middle of nowhere, so they found a clinic in a village and were hooked up to IV drips.
Oh my God.
Before shoot day, because they wanted to come back. And I've got photos of them being hooked up, and there's cockroaches and stuff.
Were they just everyone was dehydrated, or were they actually all just ill with the bug or something?
Well, we all went down with something that people have eten, I think. And I came out of it and I had E. coli. So when I got home, and so there was some.
I'll tell you what, don't use the same catering next time, please.
Yeah, I know.
For the love of God.
It was very yummy then.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Usually on a feature film, you have a buffer, you have time, you have prep. You kind of, your belly figures it out. but on our schedule, like there was no time for conversation. People, and obviously flights, there was some flight delays, so people were landed like 1 a.m. They're on set like straight away the next day. So it was killer, man. It was hard. It was hard going. And as a director, and I was like, I don't know what version of the schedule I got up to, because every night I'd go back to my hotel room and reschedule, because I was like, who's sick, who's available, what if I don't have that, what if I don't have this, and I'm all for sacrificing shots, right? So like, say, my drone guys or something couldn't turn up a day, I was like, fine. It's just a shot, okay? I can figure it out. It's all about the performances. So I was really trying to protect the cast. So, for example, Marie, was ill, and but just wanted to come to set, and I basically had to ban her for coming to set to rest, like in the hotel, because I knew that if she had a day off, I could probably get a good 4 hours with her, like the next day, instead of 2 long days of and you just see it in performances. So this whole sequences, so the whole scene where she gets the thing, if it's not on her face, that's not her. So the wine's not her, the overshoulders not her. Some of it is like the first AD who's a bloke, and it's just all trickery. And you have to really think on your feet to go like, the way I was going to shoot this is now out the window. So how do I shoot everything that way? So I know tomorrow when I get her, I can just go bang that bit. Okay, fill that piece in, fill that piece in, fill that piece in. Okay, done. And that's how I had to do it, because it was so hot, so grueling, and she did all the driving herself. She did everything is her, so she was out in it.
So you didn't have like loads of stunt people in the film and things like that? Or?
No, it was all her in that.
Good job there's no rules in the desert.
No, that is true.
Or safety measures.
I mean, it's all like, this, if you watched any behind the scenes of, Indiana Jones stuff, and you see how slow some of those vehicles are moving. You take the sound off it and stuff, and it's like, that's really slow. But the editing and the music and stuff. So I knew it was going to be using kind of lower speeds to kind of try and make it work. But yeah, so that those are kind of the main challenges of shooting it, and just trying to concentrate in that heat. Is hard. It's hilarious, but when I remember like sitting on a dune at the end of a day, and the sun, like the sun had set. It was a night scene, actually. We were doing the camp night scene, and I think it was 26 or 27 degrees, and the sun was down, and I was like, oh, this is so nice. It's so cold, because you just spend the whole day in the sun and the heat.
I have to ask about you. Someone mentioned Neil Mulholland. Was he the drone op?
That's Neil, the drone guy. Was he on the chat?
So with and the opening shot of the film, I watched it again today, and am I right in saying that was you were holding the drone like a steady cam and then letting it go? Is that how you did that oneer? All right. How do you do the oneer?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me?
No, it's kidding. It was a Ronin.
Okay.
It was a Ronin that comes down and follows down the hill, and then there's some sneaky wipes.
Okay.
And then it wipes across and then becomes a drone.
Right.
So we basically try and match the framing and the lens size, and then Neo and stuff kept it still. So when the trucks went off, and then my amazing colorist Dan Moran managed to like put those shots together in terms of color, because obviously you're going from like red and cow anamorphics to I think it was a Inspire 2 drone.
So was it literally just static? You didn't even have like someone wipe or anything?
No, there is a wipe. There's a wipe.
Oh.
You go back and see it. There's a wipe. Yeah, because it happens before you think it should happen.
Right.
And there's also a couple, and there's a bit of a sun flare, so the eye's kind of distracted with stuff going on, so you don't really see the magic. And then visual effects. I don't think they did that much on that wipe. I think it just works. It worked in the offline. It just worked really well.
I have seen people use the Inspire 2 on 21 Bridges. They took like the blades off and then just ran with it because it was so small, and it's got a really good gimbal. And I thought that's quite a good idea. And I have seen it where people hold a drone, and then let it go. So that's why I was saying, maybe you did it.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean, maybe you should have done that. Anyway, but
maybe next time.
But yeah, no. So that's how we did that shot.
Nice. Because the drone shot today, I think, like you said, it really sells the. You want to do shots that sell, well, where you are, and just keep showing where you are, don't you? And I think that was they were great shots. This drone stuff.
And for me, even when dialogue stuff, like I'm very much I love a wide lens. I'm always like that. My default's always go wider, as opposed to longer, tighter.
Yeah.
So even on dialogue stuff, especially on those Cara Anamorphics, which are just my favorite lenses.
They're so bendy.
And I just love them. I love the bend. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And there's been people that commented going, the film's great, but there's something wrong with your camera, or there's something wrong with your lenses.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no,
I wouldn't go to all this trouble if that wasn't a look I was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And you go back to E.T. and like obviously not Jurassic Park, but you go to E.T. and like stuff. Some of they're very bendy.
Yeah. But they're more like Panavision, and they're a little cleaner than the Cowas. They're not as like people aren't getting skinnier on the edges like they do with the Cowas. But
but then like I just think that gives it's part of the look.
Definitely.
Like for me, things are now too sharp and too digital. And too like I'm actually halfway through it. I'm watching The Banker, the Apple TV movie with Samuel Jackson. Wonderfully performed, great thing. I'm looking at like this just feels a bit digital. Feels a bit like I feel like there needs to be some more smoke in the room or something. I don't know. There's just something.
Get a bit haze in there.
Yeah, just to break it down a little bit.
There's a film like Moon. It's about like time travel. I know, I can't remember. Different versions of someone, and it was like The Moon something or other on Netflix. And I think it was shot on like the Panavision 8K, and with like super sharp lenses, anamorphic lenses. And you're like, this is just so clean. This is like, it looks like, I don't know, TV. I don't know. Like it just looks. Yeah. Whereas I like a bit of grain, like you get naturally with the Alexa. Or like I like anamorphics, because with anamorphics I think it takes you out of. I think we would have used anamorphics on Dark Ages, but it was just a budget thing, and we got the Amira, and he had old super speed, so we were like, well, they're old lenses, it will suit really well. It would have been maybe old anamorphics, but they used spherical, I think, on the original, so it kind of worked out. But I think you made the right choice, definitely, and it's what the old films, of that genre used, definitely.
Yeah, it works in terms of like just obviously, because you're on vistas and the kind of whole Lawrence of Arabia kind of style feel, that's the kind of, it was only really late on when like, because I love anamorphics, I'm like, why is Jurassic Park not 235? Like, why is he? And I'm like, because the height of the. Because the height of the dinosaurs. You go, oh yeah, like it makes total sense. It never quite. It took me like when I had the VHS. You get the DVD. I'm like, surely this is like zoomed in. Like this is the zoomed in version. In the cinema, it felt bigger and wider. You go, no, it's smart. That's using aspect ratio to tell a story. Whereas this was all about wide ships, deserts, tiny people on wide vistas, and it just worked for anamorphic. In that way. And to be honest, it's my default thing. Even the commercial that is probably a square, I'd be like, can I shoot anamorphic, please?
To talk quickly about then, like the budget. I mean, you must have had a fairly hefty budget for it, because it definitely looks very professional, expensive. Because you can't make any money off fan film, so how do you get people to like invest in it?
Well, it was basically between me and Gary, the Velvet, production team, and I just basically shot as many in any commercials I possibly could. I basically said no to nothing, to raise the money for it, and it was. I wasn't going to do a crowdfund. I wasn't going to do go out to investors and try and have some sort of prospectus or proposal, because you're right, you can't make money from it. So who would be crazy enough to invest in this thing?
Yeah.
Unless you're going to get something out of it, and that's the financial, the hard cash investment. But everyone else everyone got paid to do the film, but no one got, the rates that they should have got, so like drone guys or, our DP, bringing the gear and all this stuff like that. We paid them as much as we possibly could, but they're investors in the film as well. They're all doing it because they want, they believe in the story, they believe in the crazy vision and the adventure of Morocco, but everyone now has a piece of work. They can go, look at that shot. I did that. Look at that. Look at and it's something that very humbly they believed in me to deliver, because on the page you go, you need a few million quid to make this. Like, if you read it in that way to do it properly, like you're like, and obviously with the kind of the feeling of fan films, the kind of stereotypical view of a fan film, that it comes across as a bit cheap, and amateurish. It's like, well, God, a cheap version of this film is not going to be good, but people still,
it's just a toy on a fishing line for like,
basically,
kind of way. Yeah.
People believed in the vision. I think, once we got out to Morocco and they started to see, I know before that they were on board, but like, because I previs the entire film, like you could watch the entire film in previs, and which I'm going to put on YouTube, on my YouTube channel eventually when I get round to it, and you can watch the film side by side and to see where it lines up and see where it doesn't. But like I knew exactly what I needed, and I knew exactly how I was going to do it, and I had the locations. I was like, well, let's go. I
think the same happened to us. Like we had people, we couldn't really pay people. It had to be minimum wage or whatever. But like we got people on board and huge loans with the kit. Coming in with the kit. And I met two of my really good mates on the shoot now from doing that, because everyone were invested in the idea. They loved the concept, and they were like, well, this is like a Hollywood feature, but as a short, like, why wouldn't we do this? And it's only a few days of our lives, and it's in the UK, it's not in the searing heat. Why, why wouldn't we do this?
It's in the rain.
Whereas in the rain and mud instead. So we had the same thing. Luckily we had people who loved the concept. Which I think is actually the rare thing.
I just saw Neil in the comments say about it was the first one he's worked on where the drone literally decided to melt. Yeah. Which is shows how hot it was. Yeah, that's so funny. So it was. I mean, but like, hey, what a piece of work to have now. And I still can't quite believe. What we did, to be very honest, and and obviously my hat massively goes off to my visual effects team, because
I was going to ask that, actually.
I mean they're Flipbook Studios,
because some things were like, I was like, wow, that is. I mean, we didn't actually have too much in ours, but our visual effects, one guy did the visual effects, like the tent extensions, adding more tents, and the net and lasers and stuff. But we did do practical stuff where possible. But like, I mean, your visual effects were like mind-blowingly good.
I mean, they blew me away.
Really.
To be very honest. They because I'm not one of those visual effects guys that give me a laptop and I'll give you some effects. Right? That's not me. That's not what I do. I can tell you exactly. I learned how to previous software just for this film, right? Because I just wanted to try and get out of my head the scale and how I want the shots to work. And because originally I was going to do all as models, so I really wanted to do it all, in previs to see what size model and the angles and all that stuff. So they had that as a bed, but I mean, that goes a long way from like crappy, 2D or 3D, but crappy basic previs animation to some of the shots in that movie, and it was, and as it is in any movie, it was all like the 11th hour, things are coming in. But that team just, I don't know whether they went home for like a month. I don't, honestly, they just threw everything into it. And they're a busy visual effects house, right? They do a lot of stuff, but they cared about it and they loved it. And you can really,
you could tell that they really cared, and it wasn't rushed or, you know.
And they did it in like a couple months.
Wow.
It's like next, they really had no time.
Am I right in saying the platform, when he gets into the ship from underneath or whatever, he's in this like little rectangular section, and then he presses a button and that launches the ship up or something. Is the next platform up out of that dugout? Is that all CGI?
All of it, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, that doesn't look. It looks like it's sort of bendy, like anamorphic-y, out of focusness to kind of, so it's vague. But then that he's actually in the dugout. But
so that was the only time we were like recreating a set from Star Wars, which people are very aware of.
And the close-ups is panels and stuff.
Which
makes sense.
But no one's really like. There's been a couple of shots down there from that angle, but no one's really like been down there. So the whole idea was when he falls in it, that fans might be like, do I recognize? I recognize this? Like, what is this thing? So that big reveal of the Star Destroyer bridge, that's all CG. But again, like, I was really worried about that whole sequence and that set, because that's me, now contradicting myself earlier to say don't recreate sets from other films, but like that was really important to the story and the iconography of the film. And I felt like, well, maybe we could build this thing. But then you're I was going to build that in the UK and just do that as a UK thing, because I sort of didn't know any builders or I didn't trust. Well, no, I didn't trust. You become, because it's your own money and it's like a big thing. You're like, man, if this set isn't right, and if I can't be there just to check it's right and the right paint color and then I'm going to panic. And honestly, I didn't see that set until it was finished. I saw it, and the wonderful thing about the Moroccans crews is that they go, yeah, we're doing it. You're like, okay, can I see photos? No, it's fine. It's happening. Like, okay, no, it's happening. You're like, okay, and then you just have to believe.
Trust,
and then I got driven to this very hot shed one day and opened the doors, and there was a Star Destroyer set and lit up, and I was like, it's on the behind the scenes. I laughed, I cried. I just was like, I'm so relieved that this works.
Was this the same? Was that the same with the cave as well? Because obviously, was the cave built or not?
The cave was real.
Was it real?
It was real. Yeah.
Because it's obviously quite a big set if it was built.
Yeah.
But did you with the light coming through from above? Was that there, or was that? Did you add a light up there?
That was basically that's an underground irrigation system under the desert. So they're really old tunnels that all tunnel under the desert. Because I'm like, oh, it's great, we've got all the deserts and things, but like, where are we going to find caves in the desert?
Yeah.
Like, where are they? There's just dunes. And then there's like, oh, let's drive this way for 2 hours. Okay. And then suddenly you pull off the road and there's like these little shacks. You open a door and you go down and there's like all these network of tunnels and stuff. And you're just like, this is amazing. So that is actually a well. So it's an old well, and we're just basically bouncing the sun with a massive mirror to get that beam down there. Which
well, how many mirrors? Because it's like you got to go downstairs and then up again and then down again, or something.
So, well, the mirror was basically
2 mirrors, 3 mirrors,
just one mirror that had to bounce, and then obviously, continuity-wise, it gets smaller and then it gets bigger and then it disappears.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of shoot around that. And I was actually, that was my DP, Dave Meadows' idea. He was like, oh, this looks wonderful. And he did it. And I was like, that looks great, but you're going to kill me. There's no way I'm going to shoot the coverage I need for the scene and keep the continuity of that beam. We don't have the lights for it. Like, we had some stuff. There's no way you're going to recreate that. And he's like, just trust me. So I had whole crews out there, like angling these mirrors and all this stuff down to try and get the beam in. And
was that beam coming down the well, you mean?
Yeah, come down the well.
Oh, I see. So I thought it had to go down the steps And
no,
then
it came down the well.
I thought you had to angle it down the steps and then hit the floor and then back up again.
No, because there's holes in the ceiling.
Oh, I see.
Doing this scene from the Mummy, when he shoots the mirror and it goes, wow.
Yeah.
So it was coming down the well. So it was
funny
just
enough. The Mummy shot in so where we did the big amazing drone shot over the hill that revealed the temple. That was where they shot the Mummy, like just down there. Wow. So yeah, it was. So yeah, that was, and I was cursing him in my head as I was shooting it because it did get tricky with some of the coverage and stuff. But then, like, you cut it,
you don't forget. You forget about it. Yeah, you forget about it.
And also, it makes it. It just makes it for the same reason. You look at it and go, that is a flipping expensive set just to get that beam, and you go like, wow, that's production value. No, it's just caves and candles and a few little lights. Yeah. Battery powered lights basically like that scene.
It's just amazing. It's amazing what you can do with not much and just some intuition and experience.
Yeah. And what Dave Meadows can do with a candle and a mirror and a reflector is just, I don't even know how the camera's not just dark and grainy and horrible. Like it's nuts. It's nuts. It's magic. Yeah.
So, what would you say the response has been to Origins on YouTube? Because the Star Wars community.
The Star Wars fans.
With Predator,
of which I am one of them.
A lot of people that they have some issues with it, but very vocal.
Yes. I found it pretty positive, to be very honest. I think I've been kind of blown away by how positive. Like, you either get people that watch a minute and see some trucks and go, this is Star Wars, this is flipping crap, you're a hack, like, hate you. And by the way, I hate JJ and like kill Disney, and they go off on a rant and you're like, whoa, okay. And then it's funny enough, one of my favorite ones, because I reply, right, because I like to, especially people that
stop doing that. It gets just stop. You will die. You'll die just replying to all of them.
But the thing is, the main thing.
Comments that wind me up. I'm like, I've got to do one or two.
I do one or two, especially because people haven't seen it. And funny enough, like, if you sometimes challenge a troll, right, and go, look, give me 5 minutes of your life, and I promise you it'll all make sense. And the amount of people that have replied and gone, oh, well, that was just pretty wonderful, wasn't it? Like, that totally makes sense. Oh, what? Like, and you can see there, like, flip like a coin to start with, like, you're a hack, to like, oh, well, that was pretty good, wasn't it? You think, like, just watch more than 30 seconds, people. No, but I think it's been lovely. And it was, some of my favorite ones are comments of people that are like, oh, it felt like I was watching the original Star Wars again. It would give me that feel of like being back watching. And like, that's, to make something that touches people in that way is pretty incredible. And all the reaction videos and all that stuff, like, and the reviews and things, I'd say the fan community has been pretty good, pretty welcoming. But I think also it's because it's something different. So you either don't like it and you thumb it down, or you love it.
It's not like you're Disney or Fox or whoever, like we were. You're doing something off your own back. So who is anyone else to comment? It's you putting yourself out there. And
I think also because I've tried to take people on a journey. It's a contained story. Hopefully it's a bit of a roller coaster. There's characters that you can relate to and go on an emotional journey with, and and there's the kind of touch points in that way, and then a crap load of Easter eggs hopefully you can enjoy and spot as fans.
I saw the last Supper Cup.
I
noticed that when it's not over.
There's quite a few. Nice.
There's like 60 Easter eggs in it. There's loads. There's loads of stuff, even in sound. So my mixer, when you get the big kind of burst from the engines, the kind of shockwave ripple that runs out of the thing, that's Chewie's roar when it comes out. It's like, oh, when it comes out. And and you won't be able to not hear it now when you see it, but all that stuff is in there. Because it's a love letter to the genre, to George Lucas, to his films, to Spielberg, and so we've thrown as many in as possible where it didn't, hurt the story.
It doesn't feel forced. It feels like it just works nicely for it.
But the amazing thing is has been like the industry reaction to it, because as much as I want to make this story in this film, like there has to be some sort of result, right? Like you can't spend all that money and time on something and it not pay off. I don't know what the paying off is. It's not as if someone's going to send me a check.
That's the thing. I think we were expecting some kind of knighthood after doing Predators, Dark Ages, or something. But like you're right, you're like, oh, this is my ticket. This is my ticket to Hollywood, and then you're like, no.
We could both get on Disney Plus, because Disney, they're in Star Wars and they're now in. So great.
We could do a Dark Ages Origins mashup. That's the sequel. They uncover like the Knights Templar and like the Predators there, like in the cave, like but the industry reaction has been like nuts. It's been like for some of the websites and publications to even just share the trailer, and talk about the trailer has been was wonderful. There was whole times when there was like a week after the trailer went by that every night when America woke up, like I was going to bed and you get a ding on your phone, you're like, holy crap, they've retweeted it, or and that was fun and that was lovely, and that was great to kind of get that stuff out there. And
when you turn heads, that's when it's interesting, isn't it? And we had the same thing. We're like, wow, they've just not tweets or whatever, but like they've written a review of it, like Esquire or whatever. Like we were in a few magazines and stuff, and we're like, this is pretty cool. We're not going to get Emmys, or it's not going to get us into Hollywood, but it's at least turning heads, and it's fun. A fun thing to happen for sure.
See, I'm on the start of that curve, you see, so because I'm now like, well, of course I'm gonna get to Hollywood. And you're like, no.
5 years later, still living at my parents.
5 years later, you're like, no, don't worry. But no, I mean that's it has. I mean, I was in LA, and I had like 70 meetings in a week with like studios and amazing kind of basically the people producing the stuff I love, right? Sat face to face with them, and they're like, how did you make this film? Like, what is this film? And I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. There's no way I would have been in that room if it had not been for that film. There's no way. And pretty much everyone was like, the idea is really cool. And then obviously it looked epic and blah, blah, blah. So the idea was the big currency, the big pull.
And were you getting meetings having sent it out to people, or were they just contacting you?
A bit of both, but my manager was, and that's where it helps to have, obviously representation stuff, was, had those relationships and sending it out to people. There's been, some people I can't talk about publicly, maybe when we hang up, that have, watched it and liked it, and that's been amazing. And then there's been other meetings, like there's obviously I put on my Instagram, but I met Amblin. I sat down and met them, which for me was like, just the holy grail. Like, to go to Spielberg's offices because I'd made this short film. It was absolutely like amazing, like the most craziest, most important meeting of my entire career, and I messed it up. No, I didn't. Hopefully not. I don't know. Lockdown happened. I'm not sure.
To be continued.
Yeah, to be continued. So that was all. That was a lot of fun, and there's been. So there's another feature project that I was developing and writing, working with a producer on, this cool time travel thing that is going to be awesome. And because I made Origins, people were like, "Oh, okay, cool, that guy, okay, right." So there's a bit of currency there. That's helped already. So I think it's working. Like
we had that same thing where I was working with someone like literally I've met probably 10, 20 people. They don't, and then somehow they don't know that I was producing and DPing Predator Dark Ages with James, and then somehow it comes up, or they see it in my reel or something like that, and then they go, "Oh, you made that," and they're like, "Oh, I saw that like 3 years ago," or you know, these random connections. I think I was when I was doing Legacy of Lies, I was in Ukraine, and they're like, "Oh, we've seen that, we love that," and I was like, "Really? Wow, that's awesome." You know, that you can touch people like from around the world, and that you've seen it. You know, it's really cool.
And it's random. It's like, you know, I know like Neil, for example, was at like a rain dance thing, and there was someone else there that was talking about the film, and he was like, I did that. You know, he's like, what? No way. Like, you know, it's kind of so weird, that whole kind of how things can spread out, you know, in that way. I mean, you know, we're whippersnappers compared to the amount of views you guys have got like these days, which is crazy. You can kind of
counting.
Send some my way. That'd be lovely, guys. Come on, a few like 10 more views would be wonderful.
You've got plenty of Star Wars fans. There's
plenty of time.
Yeah, it'll keep ticking over. But you know, it's so yeah. I mean, it's still sort of coming down from it. Really, it's kind of all a bit crazy.
What sort of advice would you give to people who, I mean, to be honest, this is like the best conversation I think we've had with a general filmmaker. Usually we're very specific on this channel and interviewing people like DPs or directors or stunt guys, but this I think is definitely been the most insightful filmmaking side of, you know, in general, and I think a watch for anyone. But like, what advice would you give to budding filmmakers out there who is looking at making any film, not necessarily a fan film, but like a short film, a fan film or feature or whatever? What advice would you give to them, and like give to yourself back then?
Yeah, wow. I mean, the thing is maybe just reiterating kind of what I was saying before, is like, don't be afraid to fail. You know, don't be afraid to experiment. Like, my God, I don't know how many films before and I showed them to everybody, you know, because I was actually dead proud of them at the time.
Yeah.
So all right, but like you're only going to learn it by doing. There's only so much you can read. There's only so much you can watch. You know, it's only when you get on set and you're faced with some actors and a crew staring at you, wondering where to put a camera next or what to do next. You know. And that's the make or break, you know, and you. So if you have an idea, and it's important for people watching this, because I know I've had emails and people, you know, they've seen the origins and like how, and because it's a short film and a fan film, people think somehow it's like my first film or something, and then they look back and, you know, that's 14 years in, like professionally, and then years before that making shorts, you know. And I could have made that film. I could only made that film now, like with everything that went on and having to think on your feet and, you know, everything like that for now feels like, wow, that was a challenge, and that was, you know, that was using every ounce of my being to kind of get to the screen with the budget and the other conditions stuff. So you got to make stuff. And you've got to show it to people. And even if you don't like it, because you'll probably hate most of the stuff you make, but someone might love something in it, you know?
And then that gets you to the next round.
Yeah, and I'm not saying show it to, you know, your family and your friends, fine, but put it into festivals, you know, just submit to them and go to them if you can, you know, and connect, you know, because it's funny that you guys are, you know, doing this however many years later, and that was, you know, an early film for you guys. And those relationships, you know, are formed on these kinds of projects. You know, I'm still working with people now. Like he wasn't in the film, but my dear friend Alvin, who's a massive Star Wars fan, and helped me with a lot of technical stuff and, you know, work on the script and the Easter eggs and all that stuff. And the illustrator of the film, he did all the cave artwork and any illustration you see in the thing. I went to school with them. They were in my Star Wars spoof movie when I made a spoof of episode 1. So it's about finding that team, and kind of growing, and growing with people. I think that's important, so you can all kind of bounce off each other and grow in that way. But I would just, obviously there's so much advice that you can go into, but I would say the one thing I would say is that, and maybe took me a while to realize, is that at the end of the day, people watch people. So if you're going to spend a fortune getting that camera because you think it's sexy, or getting a Steadicam, but you don't pay any actors, or you just get someone to be in it, you might as well not bother. You might absolutely not bother. It should be the other way around. I think people are. Technology is obviously something you can immerse yourself in and feel like you know a lot about, and that's less scary than looking at another human being who's looking at you for some direction, or to kind of create some feeling or emotion, or to play a scene, and that bit is the directing bit. That's the bit only you can do. Now, don't get me started on directors that don't get involved with the camera and all that stuff. I'm like, my God, like, stop it, go do theatre. But fundamentally, even if you had no clue out for a shot or anything like that, there is someone like yourself that can go, well, what about this? What about this? This is how we cover it.
Yeah.
But talking to those actors and getting those performances, that is your job and your most important job. So I would say, don't get caught up in the technology and making things pretty, because actually these days it's really easy to make something look, no offense, easy to make something look pretty compared to VHS cameras, but just think about that, cast it well, because there are a lot of actors out there that aren't working. I'm not saying you're gonna get a big famous actor, but there's a lot of great solid actors out there that want to work in good stuff and good scripts. And you'll raise your budget and your feeling for the film if you get those performances. And that's something that I wish I'd told myself probably starting out, because I was like, we're going to do a tracking shot, and oh my God, I can pull focus for the first time. Whoa, and you forget about, you're like, yeah, you just kind of say that thing. Okay, we're going to do this thing. And then you get in the edit and you're like, oh.
No, I think that's a valid point. If you get, as a DP, you're sitting back and you're looking through the camera and you're seeing the performances, and you can have everything, but if the acting isn't good or the script isn't good, then no one's going to watch it. Like with your short, like the story is sublime, and that's the perfect starting point. Got you people on set in the first place. And I think that's a great thing.
And the funny thing is, that's the free bit.
The idea.
People, and I know that's hard. It's hard to have the good idea, right? But that's the thing you don't, or you've worked with a writer, or you work with a team, whatever. But that's not loads of people standing on a set that you have to feed and clothe and look after and all that gear in that time wasting way. It's like, really, what is the point if it's not a good idea? Okay, it's subjective. What is a good idea? But I blame certain people, for making me make Origin, because they were like, that's a pretty good idea. Wait, that's a cool idea. So he's what? That you're like, yeah. Right. You've got to see that film. The same with you guys. You talk about Predator. You just start talking to people about ideas, and they're like, and then it becomes a life of its own. It can't let you go. Those are the good ones.
Yeah, definitely.
And now and again, people send me short films or something, or there's a few kind of young filmmakers that I've been trying to help out, and they'll send a kind of a short film, or like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, and I'm quite brutally honest from my own humble opinion, but I'm like, that's great. What you've written is the perfect version of that thing, but I've seen it, But what if you do this thing to it? What if you do that thing to it? Or what if, and you try and develop into something, a little bit more unique, or a different spin, or something they can bring take to, and suddenly it's 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
And that's cost nothing but time,
Yeah.
and that's important. I think people also get very protective of the ideas, because you go, "Oh, you're going to steal my idea. It's going to become a massive blockbuster, and I'm going to have to sue people." It's like, oh, get over yourself. Like, pitch it, talk about it, give it a life, air it in the room, and then see how things go.
I had a script, and I was going to send it for somebody to look at, and somebody said to me, "Oh, I don't know if you should send it, because they might steal the idea." And I was like, "Oh, I've pretty much stolen that from like loads of other ideas, so it's all out."
Every film has been stolen from other films, including crossover films, especially crossover films.
What is also funny is, like, and I've sort of said this to kind of writers, like, "Oh, I can't send it off because they'll just steal it." I'm like, so they read your script and they think it's so good that they're gonna put that away and then get someone else to write that thing, but kind of differently, and steal that when they've got this thing they could just buy. If they really like it, they'll probably just buy it and then go take your money, then go off and make hire other writers
to save getting sued later down the line.
Yeah, but like, it's like, if it's a good idea, then it's a good idea. And so they need to be out there. I think from my perspective, anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's been amazing having you on the show, Phil.
Yes.
Thank you, man. Oh God, it's
time
like an hour and a half.
has whizzed by.
It's vanished.
But yeah, thanks for coming on.
50 questions for you guys.
Oh well, we'll have to do that on another episode.
Yeah, I'm going to flip it round like a takeover. That's it.
Yeah, could do that. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, and I think a lot of people really enjoy watching this episode.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Guys, and
cheers,
thanks
guys.
again, Phil.
Bye.
Bye.